Wee! Oh God. That's what it looks like when 30-year-olds roll up to YouTube these days. This used to be our platform. Hello! And welcome back, you beautiful nerds, to another edition of a video. Yes, that's right, on this channel. Boop! This little corner of the internet. Welcome back, you all. I have missed y'all so much. Last month was a big month of like meatier videos, you know? We talked about myself, and I. So today I decided to bring back diving down a YouTube hole. I still have a black eye, but she's fading. With these dive down the YouTube rabbit hole videos, I do not do any research beforehand. I approach the subject matter with some questions in mind and see where the YouTube algorithm takes me. It's like a fun roller coaster where there is no end in sight, and maybe you'll turn out to be radicalized at the end of it. I have to be honest with you, I have no opinions on this topic that we're about to be talking about. Well, that's not true. I have some opinion. I always have opinions. So like I said, I have two questions in mind, and they have to do with like things that are trending on YouTube, specifically YouTube this week, which these two questions revolve around two specific YouTube personalities, namely David Dobrik and James Charles. Bum, bum, bum. I feel like those two are public enemy number one around these parts, just given all the news that has come out about how they run their businesses and their personal lives. So while I definitely don't agree with the acts that these two individuals have committed, I don't have opinions on who they are as people. Like, I haven't made any judgment calls on their character just yet. But the magical thing about YouTube is that there are a bunch of creators on here that have. Usually I like to approach these dive down the YouTube rabbit hole videos with me a little bit high, but today's my day off from smoking weed. So those are kind of the ground rules of what we're about to do. So let's put on our private investigator hats, keep our minds open, and approach each topic with a level of curiosity and acceptance. The two questions that I'm approaching YouTube with today. Number one, are these two creators actually canceled? Both of these creators have made apology videos before. This is not the first time that they've had to turn to the platform that made them famous and apologize for something. My second question is it even really possible to be canceled on YouTube? Because when I think of cancellation, I think of like the number one person that I would like to cancel is Jake and Logan Paul. I think I'm not alone in thinking and wanting that, but those are two individuals. They rose to fame on YouTube, and they have been canceled left, right, and center, and yet those two are still making money hand over fist. So what does it mean to actually be canceled on YouTube? Does it actually mean anything? Let's get started on one of my favorite websites in the whole wide world called Google Trends. Basically, you can go to this website and explore what the world is searching, just what it says. So for example, you see here, Taylor Swift, Kim Kardashian. Let's go click on that just to see what's up. In the world of Taylor Swift and Kim Kardashian, two very different individuals with two very different career paths, we have some data presented to us about how people are searching for these two women. So right now, Kim Kardashian is leading the charge, which is surprising to me because Kim Kardashian really hasn't come out with any like news-worthy items, whereas Taylor Swift, I feel like, has had her name in the news recently with her trying to buy back her songs from Scooter Braun. So right now we can see where they're trending in the time span in which they're trending, all the different categories, if we wanted to like zero in on like certain publications. So right as you can see here, the difference in the data of what people are searching is drastically different. We can see here that Taylor Swift is kicking Kim Kardashian's ass when it comes to people searching for her on YouTube versus the web. This is like noticeably a lot more. If you're somebody who's like, yeah, but what are the increments of which they're comparing these two women? I don't really know. It's based off of a scale of 1 to 100. They're kind of giving a subjective scale as to like people's interests, but it's a lot of information. So just think about it as like a temperature gauge between 0 and 100, and that's how Google rates people on Google Trends. That was to demonstrate the difference between the ecosystem between Google searches and YouTube searches. And we're learning. Look at us. Before we dive in, I was looking at like what's trending on the internet today. Apparently Mr. Beast released a new dream burger. Apparently very exciting, but this burger looks incredibly basic. Mashed patty, American cheese, lettuce, mayo, double pickles, and extra bacon, and avocado. That just seems really we're not even gonna do a special sauce? No hate to burgers and no hate to Mr. Beast. Put a little spice on that or something. Anyway, let's move on to David Dobrik versus James Charles on a YouTube search. David Dobrik and James Charles have been kind of neck and neck in their search results and their popularity since 420. Let's bring this conversation onto youtube.com, shall we? I started with James Charles. Now before we get started, I should go ahead and announce that I have met both of these individuals, James Charles and David Dobrik, before. I know James Charles a little bit differently than I know David Dobrik. I directed James Charles in Here For It, which is a Facebook production. My impression of him was that he was very sweet and very professional. Let's learn from what he has to say about what went wrong, shall we?
As many of you guys know, about 2 years ago now, I was involved with a very public online scandal in which some fellow YouTubers made some very serious accusations against me. This first happened 2 years ago. I uploaded a video to my channel called No More Lies, and that video was a very planned video.
I will say off the bat, I feel bad for James. I mean, in this video, he looks incredibly sorry. He is not wearing makeup. It looks like he hasn't been sleeping. It looks like he just finished crying. I could be projecting here. In fact, I'm probably projecting. But not to get too mama bear about it, but as somebody who's worked with him before, immediately I have this feeling of like, oh my God, that sucks. I know a lot of people are probably gonna be like, but Devin, he's a perp. Again, I don't actually really know. I do like that he started this apology with saying that he's gonna hold himself accountable, because I just feel like that's not something that you hear from men often. My gut reaction when I'm watching this video is like, man, poor guy. But I think that's just because I'm very much an empath. It's funny that, you know, James Charles is an adult. Legally in the United States, he's over the age of 18, meaning that he is a legal adult. So I understand that. But sometimes I just question whether or not we take into effect emotional intelligence at all. How old is James? Is he like, yeah, he's 21 years old. When I met James Charles, I will say like, yeah, he did seem to have like a lower emotional IQ than I expected, especially since all of our correspondence, he was like very professional and awesome. But I expected him, you know, when the camera turned off, to gravitate towards his team, his management team, or to us, like someone who's a little bit older in his age range, I guess. But everyone else on the show was like 16, 17, 18, and he's 21. He's closer in age to 16, 17, 18 than he is to a 32-year-old. Again, I'm not excusing James for having flirty conversations with a teenager. I guess I assumed that James Charles, because he's been in the cultural zeitgeist for so long, that he would be having an older emotional IQ. But again, he is a 21-year-old American male. You can't get on here and tell me that we haven't given excuses to 21-year-old men before. Like, the emotional IQ of a 21-year-old man is probably around like 18 or 19. Right? I'm not saying that's a good thing at all. I'm saying that's a byproduct of living in a patriarchal society. I also want to take a second to talk about the comments on this video. I think it's very important whenever you're like doing a little research on youtube.com to look at what people in their community are saying. So off the bat, the meanest comments are floating to the top. The number one comment was from 3 weeks ago. Someone said, "I'm sorry, it's hard to focus. His hair looks like a burger patty." Well, Sam, I think you're being a little mean. I'm being very protective of this boy. Whew, walk it back, Dev. We're taking an impartial look at James Charles. Let's hear some dissenting opinions about James Charles, because I do think if I do a little gut check, I'm being very sympathetic to him right now, and I wanna hear it all.
This is the notification that I got when he Snapchatted me first. I went into the bathroom, and I guess he saw the bathroom light, so he started making the conversation very sexual, and it made me really uncomfortable.
That detail about he went into the bathroom and James Charles might have noticed that he was in the bathroom and saw the bathroom light, that's very distinct. That's something I feel like, as someone who's been on the receiving end of assault, that's something that would stick with you, you know? We're like, oh. There's a YouTube channel called The Drama Savage. Let's see what The Drama Savage has to say.
Now, after Isaiah went public with his story, another person came forward and said that they basically had a pretty similar experience. And after him, a third person went forward with their story against James Charles. Literally in the past 48 hours, 3 people came out against James Charles. And in the past 6 months, 5 people.
The Drama Savage has done their research, and I gotta say, they have procured photos of all of the people who have come forward to talk about James Charles. And I will say, all of these people look kind of similar, which doesn't look good for James Charles. I can already hear the comments being like, yeah, Devin, they look like they're young. Is that what looks similar about them? No, I'm just saying like they all kind of have brow and the dark curly hair. Not a good look, James Charles. Let's continue down the James Charles rabbit hole. Defending James Charles. Let's look at that. People are gonna hate on him. People are gonna defend him too. I'm gonna watch this video that keeps popping up for me called The Truth About James Charles. Yikes. On T-Spill.
James Charles used to be friends with Tony and Andres Lopez and even made a YouTube video with them. But ever since Tony Lopez got exposed last year for hitting up minors,
I do
James
remember
has cut off
this.
his friendship with Tony. People were accusing James for defending Tony from his past tweet in June when he called Tony's victim clout chasers.
Let's just take a temperature check with how I'm feeling. I fell down this James Charles rabbit hole. I'm feeling pretty sad and duped, quite honestly. I think my judgment of James Charles was clouded by the fact that I see him as a baby child, but he's not. He's a 21-year-old. And also, I think my judgment of him was a little bit clouded by how he was able to be so professional on set and guide conversation and was so sweet to everyone around him. However, that doesn't mean he can't be emotionally manipulative. I did not know that there was some emotional manipulation going on behind the scenes. And the fact that he's able to craft language and like say things like, you know, people who do not respect privacy are the lowest of the low. No, my guy, no. Despite being canceled, quote unquote, despite going through all of this stuff, he's still, you know, raking in at least 900,000 views a day, according to this Social Blade website. Doesn't necessarily feel like James Charles is actually canceled. Let's check up on David Dobrik, shall we? I don't have any dissenting opinions about David Dobrik. Like I said, I've met him once. He seemed like a nice guy. I met him at a John Bon Jovi event. What did I meet him at? No, I was meeting him. I met him at Hampton Water. Y'all do not want to know how I spelled Hampton Water in the Google search term just now. I met him literally in passing. He seemed very nice. I didn't get any weird vibes off of him. I want to hear what Philip DeFranco says, because Philip DeFranco is always outraged.
Angry intro, fun. So you know how the David Dobrik situation was already incredibly bad? Well, it just got worse for a completely different reason.
Off the bat, Philip, leak your skincare routine. Like, your skin is looking real clear, my guy, and soft. I know you're married, you've got children, but like, I don't want to like touch it just a little bit, like my guy. So full disclosure, I've already seen the video with Jeff Wittick. It's terrible. It looks positively frightening. Talk about emotional immaturity. I really feel like David Dobrik has like hit rock bottom when it comes to like his emotional IQ here. If you're gonna do a huge stunt where you're propelling yourself, I need mats. I need more than one person or two people with a vlog camera documenting it, okay? I need stunt experts. I need a team medic on site. Like, yeah, I do think YouTube should probably have like stronger guidelines. This is something I'm realizing, I think now. I've always thought this way about prank YouTubers in general, but I never had the words to articulate why I feel so passionately about it, because until this moment, until I'm actually doing research on David Dobrik, I feel mad that he's making millions off of putting people in danger. Hire the correct people to teach you how to do it, okay? And do it safely. Y'all, like, ooh, I get so nervous. God, I'm molting.
What's the worst that could happen? At which point Jeff notes that he made a mistake, saying, I forgot the biggest fucking idiot I know was driving. And then, I mean, I can't even show you the video.
That's another thing about the video that was leaked. You can't even really see it on YouTube because YouTube immediately demonetizes it. And so creators don't really want to show it all because they don't want to get their videos demonetized. And it is so shocking that I saw the video on Twitter for the first time. Now, I did not know that YouTube was censoring this video. And I guess it makes sense because I saw it all trending on Twitter and that's how I learned about it. Wow. Wow. Now, wow. I think the reason why I'm more upset about the David Dobrik news versus the James Charles news, I feel like I can understand the David Dobrik stuff a little bit more. Hear me out. So as a creator, you're constantly thinking about new ideas, new ways to garner interest in your channel, new ways you want to redefine yourself, etc., etc., etc. You're thinking about yourself almost as like a little broadcast business, because you are. The more people you hire, the more responsibility you have. David Dobrik could have done anything. He could have started a cooking channel and made that his big comeback. The fact that he chose pranks and sloppy stunts as his big comeback, and then, according to Philip DeFranco, YouTube suppressed this Jeff Witten news. Wow, there really isn't a lot about David Dobrik being canceled when you search it. I'm gonna watch this video.
It's 1:45 in the morning, and I'm finally by myself. I've put myself in a lot of situations where I've needed to apologize for my past actions, and I've never done this correctly, and I've never done this respectfully. And my last video...
Yeah, it just feels like David Dobrik really isn't canceled. This is from Optimus, a YouTuber that I really like.
So David Dobrik has had a lot going on recently, and this is honestly one of the only situations I think I've ever seen in which we've seen a quote-unquote cancellation like this actually kind of work.
Is it?
Now, Dispo is basically an app in which you take pictures or whatever, right, and it would take time for the photo to quote-unquote develop, and it has like a retro filter superimposed onto it.
Oh, that's
You
so
gotta wait like an entire
stupid.
day. But more importantly, David Dobrik has now seen his role in this company completely vanish. He's had to step away from this company that he was helping run through the board of directors and everything.
Okay, Optimus, sorry. I understand that he's had to take a step down from the board of this app, but this app wasn't a Fortune 500 company, my guy. I'm not sure that that means that he's been properly canceled. There's no such thing as being canceled. The term being canceled comes from Black Twitter, and it doesn't actually mean anything. In fact, right now, it's being used as a fear-mongering term, which is not the case. That's clearly not the case. Being canceled used to mean being called out for something that doesn't align with the image that you are projecting on social media. And now it's being lauded as this thing that is the end-all of careers. Clearly it's not. What I've learned with this YouTube rabbit hole is that this idea of cancellation is just fake. It is fake. It is a surge of outrage. I think it's pretty impossible to define what it means to be canceled at this point because it just means so many different things. It's depending on what you were canceled for, like on what platform you were canceled, what your community thinks versus what the greater population at large thinks. For these people like James Charles and David Dobrik, it feels like you just got a slap on the wrist, and then in a couple months when this all blows over, you're gonna get back to it. That's what I figured out in the past 3 hours since we started this YouTube rabbit hole. Hell, if Logan Paul is still on YouTube, truly, 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 truly crazy. But I'm interested in hearing what y'all have to think. So tell me in the comments below, do you think that cancellation on YouTube is actually a thing? Watch me say this and watch me get canceled, and then I'll make an apology video later, be like, it's such a thing. I can't believe I said that. Again, I'm interested in hearing what you have to say below. Do you think that cancellation is actually a thing that's gonna be happening for James Charles and David Dobrik? What are your opinions on those two massive YouTubers? Are there any YouTube videos that have more tea that I just didn't get from this piping hot rabbit hole dive? And I didn't even drink or smoke weed on this one. This one was just wild in and of itself. All right, my beautiful nerds, that's it for me. I hope we all learned something on this YouTube rabbit hole. Tell me what you would like me to explore next on our next YouTube rabbit hole deep dive. And hey, if you're new here, hit that like and subscribe button or check me out on Instagram at Lytle. All right, y'all, I love you very much, and I'll see you next week.